Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
Welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Excuse me. Those in the chat room and those listening from around the world, we appreciate each and every one. Tonight, if you do have questions for us, you can either send a message to H. Foister, Ceiling Cat, or Tabby too, and we'll get those answered for you. If you're listening from somewhere else around the world, you can go to the paranormalview@gmail.com and send us a message, and we will get those questions answered. Tonight, we have with us Barbara Duncan.
Hello, everyone.
And Jeffrey Gould.
Hello, hello.
And our wonderful guest tonight, who is fairly well known around ParaX now. We got Tabby Cat Gasch with us.
Yay. Good evening, everybody.
All right. Now, I'm a little hoarse tonight, so
so you're just going to pony up the show?
Yeah, I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking here. I mean, I've got some questions, but I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking. So, with that, actually, before I introduced Tabby Cat, I wanted to welcome Barbara Duncan. She's with us.
Yes.
I know you already said that.
You've already done that?
Yep.
Yeah, yep.
And we got Jeff, who's also going to tell you who our guest is. I know I did that too.
All of a sudden. Our returning guest tonight is longtime friend of the show, Cat Snider Gasch, who teams up with Henry on Paranormal View Gettysburg weekends, when there are Gettysburg weekends. As a sensitive, since she was 5 years old, Cat has experienced the paranormal, and since then she's had experiences here in America, as well as, not surprisingly, in haunted Ireland, Scotland, and England. Her first book, My Life Amidst the Paranormal, is a small glimpse into her experiences. So welcome back, Cat Gasch. Yay!
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Now,
so,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm sorry you weren't feeling too good, Henry. I know I just came off of a stomach bug or something. So, I guess we can all kind of commiserate with each other this evening.
Yeah, I think mine's mainly sinus. It's like drained down in
the last
my throat.
time I thought I had.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm on a horrible time lag. That's going to really mess things up. I was going to say the last time I felt I had food poisoning, it turned out to be appendicitis. So good luck with that.
Oh, thanks. Vote of confidence here. Appreciate that.
So, I know you've got a show on here now, and we'll let you talk a little bit about that in a little while. You live between Gettysburg and Antietam.
That's correct.
Since COVID has started, what effects has COVID been on the paranormal?
Oh dear, where do I count the ways? I suppose probably the worst thing and the most profound thing is that you can't get together. The paranormal community is very close. We're probably unlike a lot of other groups out there where we do really enjoy and feed off of the fact that we are together quite a bit. It's the camaraderie, it's the friendship, it's the experiences that we have together, it's the understanding of each other. And so I think that's probably been the hardest on me, is not being able to get together face to face with my paranormal friends, like yourselves. So for me, that's probably one of the hard. Of course, not being with my family and everything, that's been rather difficult as well. But as far as the paranormal is concerned, that's the biggest thing, just not getting together.
So, you talk to spirits all the time, and
Yep.
what effects has COVID had on the spirits?
Well, I had noticed probably from, maybe April or May, it seemed like I had a lot more what I would refer to as transients, Gesundheit, whoever it was that sneezed. I have a lot of transients that come through. I've always had spirits that just pass through, just to say hello or whatever. But it seems that there have been more since this virus. I don't know if it's because of the number of deaths, unfortunate deaths, due to this virus, and also the effect that it's had on, I guess, just the overall, I suppose, the vibrations, the mental vibrations that people have as a result of being cooped up, not seeing their families, not being with their families, being frustrated, being angry, disappointed. All those negative feelings and everything seem to have had a very large impact on the living. And I think, unfortunately, it's kind of transferred over onto the spirit world as well. Whatever affects us, the living, affects those in the afterlife. And it's unfortunate that I think a lot of people are feeling the effects of it, those like myself, who do definitely communicate with the spirit world. We're finding that the spirits are, well, at least for me, I'm finding that they're trying to be more supportive. Most everybody that I've been in contact with, they've been very positive. They're trying to be uplifting and supportive, letting me know, hey, things are going to be okay. Don't be down. Don't be depressed. And I've even had a few of them that I'd never even met before come through here and sat here while I'm on the computer and joked with me. And I don't know who in the heck they were, but they decided to crack me up. So, yeah, it's definitely affected the spirit world. I don't know how it is for everybody, but I'm finding that they're trying to be positive with us.
You think that there, with all that pent-up stuff going on in 2020, there would be an uptick in poltergeist activity because, if you follow general belief, poltergeist activity tends to amp up around areas where people are pent up, frustrated, angry, can't vent, etc.
Oh, I've definitely had that happen here at my own home. I generally don't have a whole lot of spirits that like to move things or make noise or anything like that, but I have definitely had that happen here over the last so many months where I'll put something down, and it's not because I'm suffering from CRS or anything. It's just simply because I've put something down where it would normally be, and I come back and it's not there, and it's in a strange place. And I finally have gotten a little bit frustrated on occasion by saying, hey, look, put it back. Like the other night, I couldn't find my phone. I had no idea where it was. And I went around looking for it and couldn't find it and figured, well, the heck with it. I'll just find it in the morning. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, had to get up and go to the bathroom and thought, I'm going to just take another quick look around and see where my phone is. Still couldn't find it. I had to get my husband's phone and call my phone to find out where it was.
Oh, wow.
And it was over by our aquarium where our fish are. And I've never taken my phone over there, so what in the world it was doing over there, I don't have a clue. But here I am calling my phone to find out where my phone is. And then yesterday, I couldn't find my coffee cup. I drank everything, but I couldn't find my coffee cup. And I went everywhere that I had been during that morning thinking, well, I carried it. It wasn't there. I found it empty sitting on my sofa. So I don't know who it is that's doing this to me, but they're just having a lot of fun.
But I guess, it's possible that there's the other group that believe it's poltergeists aren't entities themselves, but projections of people. So it is possible, I guess, that somebody in your house, maybe?
I would say so.
Or anybody.
I'd say it's probably one of the transients that comes through. Because I've got a gentleman that just jokes with me all the time, and he seems to enjoy messing with me. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it wasn't that particular spirit. I know it isn't my husband, because he was definitely in bed, the time that I lost my coffee cup and my phone, so I don't know. But yeah, bizarre. I have a tendency to believe pretty much the same thing. There's a couple of different kinds of poltergeist activity. One, I think, is actually a spirit that is maneuvering things and moving things. And then there's the other type of poltergeist phenomena where it's actually coming from the living. It's your projection. And it's supposed to have been well documented that poltergeist activity centers around like adolescent people, people that are going through puberty. Yeah, children that are going through puberty, and I've also heard that poltergeist activity can also be around menopausal women. And if you think about the hormonal changes in both, I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Yeah, but I always chalk that off to anti-feminist stuff, and that it's obviously a hysterical female, what I call the hysterical female syndrome.
Well, young male teenagers as well have been, figured that they're causing the telekinetic energy and such.
In some cases, they will say that now, but in the beginning, it was young teenage girls just going through puberty, and again, what she was saying, Tabby was saying, postmenopausal or menopausal women, because it's female hysteria.
Well, back in the Victorian days, actually all the way through, I think, like the 1920s, people had a tendency to put women in asylums during their menstrual cycle because they considered them crazy. Their hormones would change so badly, and the mood swings and the anger issues and the depression and so forth, and they considered them just nuts. So instead of putting up with it for, a couple of weeks, they would throw them in these asylums until it was over with. And I guess I was lucky that when I went through menopause, I didn't go through that. My husband said if I had, he probably would have thrown me in a nut house. But the only thing that
Good thing by now they're all abandoned and being investigated.
I just went through the horrible night sweats and the hot flashes and everything, where I wanted to go into stick my head in the freezer all the time and my head out the window when I was driving. But the poltergeist activity, when you consider that we are made up of electrical energy, I don't see why it would be so far-fetched to believe that when we are under a great deal of emotional stress or something of that nature, that why couldn't we project outward? Because after all, we do show auras. People read our auras. Some people, you can get near them and you don't even know them, but they give off this vibration that you just don't like them. You don't want to be near them.
Or that you've
And
known
you
them
can't
forever.
explain it. Yeah. So I don't know why that wouldn't be possible, that the living could indeed project some energy in some fashion, that they would be able to move something. Me, I don't have the patience to sit there and try to bend a spoon, but goodness knows that if my cats do something stupid, they do have a tendency to have a pillow or something flying after them. So,
Oh, really? And I doubt if that's a spirit that's throwing the pillow.
it's definitely something that I'm doing. I don't think it's necessarily poltergeist, but it's me.
But yeah, I would kind of agree with that, because if you look at the phenomenon of people being able to turn off streetlights when they walk under them,
You
or
mean like
light
Gene
bulbs go
Kelly
off.
did? Yeah, like Bell Book and Candle. Gene Kelly did. Jack Lemmon did that in Bell Book and Candle. That was one of his favorite things to do in that movie. He turned them either green or he turned them off.
So yeah, it's possible.
Bell Book and Candle, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, well,
That was,
there would be the idea of being able to influence electricity just by standing there, and I think we all do it. Tabby, I don't know if you've tried it with your bell meter yet, or any EMF detector, is to just try to project energy out of your hands to see if you can get that meter to move.
Well,
You
that's
can
the
do it with
reason
dowsing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason I don't keep my millimeter or my K2 in my hands. I try not to. The only time that I do that is when I'm taking base readings somewhere, to make sure that the plugs aren't giving off too much. But if I'm doing an actual investigation, I have a tendency to set them down, because I do not want to risk myself influencing that particular thing. And I have a tendency not to even watch them sometimes. I'll kind of look at them out of the corner of my eye, because whether I can or whether I can't, I've never tried it. But I don't know. I guess maybe in a way I'm kind of afraid of the idea of doing that, because if I found that I can do it, I might inadvertently do it, and I don't want to risk doing that on an investigation.
Oh, that's just another
Looks like I've
reason.
watched.
You might inadvertently be doing it now. So I think the idea of, if you know that you can do it, then you just set aside that piece of equipment saying, nope, can't use it.
Well, I know that some people do influence dowsing rods and pendulums. Me, I've definitely had a spirit to actually maneuver my dowsing rods when I use them. And I've actually gotten shocked a couple of times through the dowsing rods. If the spirit is not wanting to stop talking, or they're wanting to get my attention, I will literally get like an electrical charge.
Like a static electrical charge?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I could describe it as static electricity, but it comes out as almost like I've gotten. Well, yeah, I suppose that is what it would, like if you run your feet across the carpet and touch somebody. Yeah, that's almost the way it feels. It'll happen.
That's what I figured that would be the easiest way for them to manipulate that, I would think.
Yeah.
Because they'd be able to pull it right out of the air.
It's a weird feeling. Yeah, it's a weird feeling to have that happen. It's happened more than once to me, and I still don't understand why, but it's happened.
I get static electrical zaps from shopping carts sometimes. I don't know why.
Really?
Through the plastic, they're holding the plastic, and it's on rubber wheels. But every so often, you'll just be close enough to that little bit of metal under the plastic, and then it goes zap. I'm like, how are you doing that? I'm wearing sandals. I'm not. It's a tile floor. There should be no static electricity.
Well, I'm sure the body itself has electrical charges,
Oh,
and so
oh
that's
yeah.
going to do it. Yeah,
Feels more like it's coming at me, not
not from you.
yeah. Well, no, it feels like it's being zapped into. Again, who's to tell if it feels like if it's zapping to somewhere else? I've seen a lot of the Tesla experiments where the electricity literally doesn't do anything to somebody. You see these massive sparks and sparks flying out of people's fingers, and they just stand there like, see, it's very harmless. Um, but yeah, it would be interesting if that's something that's actually discharging from me into the metal of the shopping cart. That's possible.
Hmm.
So, how do the spirits? Because you say they talk with you and everything. How do they communicate with you? Do you just sense something, or do you audibly hear them speak?
Generally, I can feel that they're here with me long before they even try to communicate. I can't really describe it. I can feel something in my head, especially on the right-hand side of my head, and I can tell that they're there. My whole body just suddenly feels like I'm filled with an electrical charge. Or I will get extremely cold for absolutely no reason. In other words, the room feels like it's gotten just suddenly cold, like you open up the door to the fridge. But usually it's just the feeling that I get when you know that somebody's watching you, when you can tell that somebody else is in the room with you and they might be looking at you, and I can tell that. And I will just turn around and look up, and there they are. They might not say anything at first. I have a couple of them that stop by on a regular basis. One of them stops by every time I listen to music. And if I'm listening to, the shock show, then this one Marine comes in periodically, and he will even request a song.
Huh.
And the shock is gracious enough to, play it for him because he's aware that, he's here also. But
Well, Steve also doesn't want any dead air, so.
that's true. He definitely doesn't want that. But it's something that I've been able to pick up on since I was a child. And over the years, when I was younger, I had a tendency to try and suppress it because a lot of people, especially my parents, didn't necessarily believe me. And I also didn't want to be any more strange to my friends and my classmates and everything that I already was, because as I was growing up, everybody in my school were what I would refer to as collegiate. They had the nice little skirts and the little roll down socks and the cute little button down collars and the sweaters with the little chains that held them, and their hair was all nice and neat. Me, I'm wearing spots and stripes together, fishnet stockings, go-go boots, teasing my hair up, and I'm listening to rock and roll music, and they're listening to the Beach Boys and the Four Seasons, and I'm listening to the Rolling Stones and people like that. So I was weird to begin with. So telling people that I could see ghosts, that was definitely not on my short list of things to, be personal about. So it wasn't until I was well into my teens when I decided that I was going to just open myself up to the possibility of trying to communicate with them instead of just having random experiences, but actually allowing myself to have it happen. And it started to. And I embraced it. I figured, well, what the heck? If this is going to happen to me, I'm going to do it. And over the years, I've been able to hone my skills as a medium. and I now know how to cut them out. I know how to shut them off. I know how to block them. I know how to protect myself. And there have been on occasion where I've actually had to get a little forceful with a couple of spirits that just flat out refused to leave me alone.
Wow.
They just kept bugging me, and I'm like, look, I can't keep doing this with you. I can't keep having you just show up. You're not talking to me. You're not telling me why you're here. You're not asking a question. You're not asking for help. If you're just wanting company, that's fine, but stop showing up at random times and, bugging me. If you want to talk to me, fine, but please, do it in a more respectful and, more personable basis rather than just showing up and tapping me on the shoulders and just walking away and then coming back and doing it again like a little kid wanting your attention.
Yeah.
So
It reminds me of Patrick Swayze in Ghost showing up to Whoopi Goldberg and keep singing Henry VIII song.
yeah, if you don't talk to me, then I'm going to keep coming back. I had one do that a couple of years ago, and they kept showing up, and I kept asking him, what is it you want from me? Well, I need you to do this for me. Well, what is it you want me to do? And they would always be very vague. And they were constantly showing up saying, I need your help, I need your help, I need your help. Well, that's all well and good, but what do you need help with? And if you're not going to tell me what it is that you are in need of help with, then I suggest you go and find somebody else that you can talk to, because you're obviously not able to communicate with me. And finally, I got it through to them that I was not the person they needed to talk to. That whoever it was that they wanted to communicate with, I was not the person to do it. And eventually they finally left me alone. But it took weeks for me to finally get it through to this spirit that I couldn't help them. There was not a darn thing I could do for him. It was frustrating to me. It was frustrating to him. But, hey, eventually he must have found somebody that could help him, and I'm glad of it.
But, Kat, doesn't that make you kind of suspicious when a spirit would show up saying, I need help, but they won't tell you what they need help with? It sounds almost like they're not so much playing, but also just they can be just as nefarious as, hey, kid, do you want to step over here? I have candy, sort of thing.
Yeah. I began to get not only a little suspicious, but I started getting angry. And there were times that this spirit would show up and I would get rather abrupt, so to speak. And my husband would say, is that person back again? I'm like, yeah. Well, what the hell do they want? And I said, they won't tell me. And my husband just kept saying, well, just be patient with them. Just hold on. Eventually they might say something. Well, after a couple of weeks when this kept happening, and I kept telling him, look, right now I don't have, we were going through something with a family member at that time, and I just could not concentrate on anything else except for this, my relative. And I kept telling this spirit, look, I'm sorry, I can't mentally and psychologically deal with you right now. I can't. I'm trying to help somebody in the living right now. I can't do this. And eventually, this spirit finally started moving away. And I think either they finally got the idea that I definitely could not help them, or they finally just figured out that they could no longer annoy me. Because I just started ignoring him. And eventually he just went away. So it might have been that he's just trying to get my attention just to be an SOB. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just glad he's gone.
Jeff, when Kat started telling this story, did you go, mm-mm-mm? Or did you hear me at all?
Jeff?
Huh?
Me?
Yeah.
Jeff?
I don't remember. I may have. I don't think so.
Because there was
That didn't sound like him, Henry.
I didn't think it did, but that's the reason I was
I didn't-
asking.
Hear a hum hum hum.
Well, it did. It's recorded on here, so that's the reason I asked.
It's done it a couple of times.
I only heard it the 3 times right in a row.
Well, that's why we have Alexa. Oh wow. I haven't heard it in my headset yet.
Barbara, did you hear it?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
But it could be just me because I have a
only
tendency to
Ohio
do
is-
that.
Well, it was loud. I mean, it wasn't soft. This was loud. So
Yeah.
I've got the time
I
right now.
definitely
Me, it would have been
I'll
soft.
I'll check it out when it was recorded and see if we caught something else. And there's been a lot of things that we have caught on this show.
Wouldn't be the first.
It wouldn't be the first, and we have no idea where it comes from. So it's more than just that. There's been all kinds of things.
Hopefully, it's not your ghost back.
No, he's not here. I don't have anybody with me except for 1, 2, 3, 4 cats.
4 cats, huh?
Yeah, 4 cats and 1 in the hallway.
Is that called the stray cats?
Did they react to straight?
Actually, my cats do react to them. There's been a number of times when someone's been here and
They
the
react.
couple, oh yeah, they look up, they watch them, and one in particular isn't particularly fond of cats. And so when he comes in, the cats won't even pay attention to him. They'll just kind of glance up and, continue to lay down. And then eventually the cats will leave, which is kind of unusual because they like to be back here with me. Then I've got another one that when he comes in, they all react to him and they're very comfortable and they stick around. Now, the one that likes to listen to the music, he's already let me know that he's a dog person. He's not overly fond of cats, but he likes mine. So when he comes in, my cats all seem to react to him. But there's one spirit in particular that loves to walk back and forth behind my sofa while we're watching TV on occasion. And the cats will look up and watch him. Or they'll just stare at him. And my husband's like, oh, no, don't tell me there's somebody here in the house again. I'm like, he's sorry. I mean, he doesn't know them. He doesn't feel them. He doesn't see them. But he sees me and the cats react. It's like, oh, no.
That was
Not again.
that was one of my next questions. Does Ray see or hear anything?
No, he's had a couple of experiences here in the house when we have had things to happen by way of one of the spirits letting me know that they're here. But this has been quite a long time ago. He definitely believes, there's no doubt about it, but he doesn't seem to know. And like he said, he'd rather not know. If there's a spirit there and I tell him there is, he just takes it, as at my word. And that's it. But I've seen a couple of full-bodied apparitions here in the house a couple of times that have never interacted with me at all. And I don't know who they were. I thought I recognized them. But I've been recently having somebody that's been calling my name when it's quiet and when I'm pretty much relaxed. I can be watching TV. Ray goes on to bed and I'll sit up and watch TV for a while. And I'll hear my name called and it sounds exactly like my husband. And I'll call out and I'll even go in and check on him. And he's sound asleep, but it's like it's right there beside me. and I don't know who it is or why it's happening. It's pretty freaky, and I don't like it.
Henry's experienced something like that, haven't you, with Patsy? Didn't you heard her voice or something, and it turned out it wasn't her?
Well, no, yeah. She was in the hallway outside our bathroom in our other house, and I had the door closed in my computer room, and we got a little girl cat, and we're all the time calling it the little girl, you know, and I heard her definitely say, "There you are, little girl," and I got up and walked over and opened the door up, see what she was doing. Nobody was up there. And I went downstairs and said, "What did you want?" And I told her, and she says, "No, I ain't been upstairs." So, I mean, that was plain as day at what I heard. But it wasn't her. It sounded like her voice, but it wasn't her.
Yeah, that's unnerving. It's one thing to have a voice say something to you, but it's another thing when you have a spirit or something to call your name in a voice that you recognize.
Yeah.
And that is freaky. I do not like that.
Yeah, I haven't had that happen in that particular way before, so I don't usually hear anything or see anything, but just like your cats, we'll be watching TV or something, and Alistair will be laying in his bed on the floor, and all of a sudden he'll raise up and he'll stare down the hallway or something like that, and he'll just intently watch. And sometimes he'll move his head a little or something, but I've never seen or heard anything.
Well, sometimes I think it isn't necessarily the location that might be haunted. Because Patsy, has abilities as well. I'm sure that the spirits come to visit her every now and then. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Not at all.
Well, I'll see. I'll ask her sometime and see if she's noticed anything like that.
So with the COVID, do you think that there is more energy for some of these spirits to feed off of? And so they're actively seeking out, say, not abandoned asylums or houses, but places where people are gathering in their own homes, for example. Is there a rise in locations where there had no instances of hauntings before the epidemic?
That's a good possibility. After all, even though there are a number of spirits that will only be at one location for whatever reason, such as an asylum or an old hospital or an abandoned building or something, the fact that right now there's no real paranormal groups out there. Now, there are some of them that are risking getting together, and they're still doing investigations and so forth. And there's some locations that are even holding ghost hunts and ghost tours. Those spirits have people around them to feed off of their energies on a regular basis. But now that a lot of places are closed down or they're not having any activities, it wouldn't surprise me at all that spirits are finding other locations to be. They're using the energies.
Yeah. I guess the follow-up question.
That's right.
Follow-up question to that would be, how far do you think that an energy that's being pent up like this, and pretty much everybody's having it right now, things are getting, quite tense. How far do you think that energy actually emits outside of a certain situation? And do you actually have to have a ghost in the house for them to feed off of it? How far out does it radiate? Like, we have our own auras. How far do you think that could extend out with a lot of energy being produced?
Ooh.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that would be a cool experiment for parapsychologists. They have so many controlled experiments that they do on people who have abilities, and such as the ones that they had recently, over the last so many years, taken an EEG machine, the little suction cups all over your head, and looked at the brain activity of people who have abilities and tried to figure out where the correlation is between spirit activity and what the body is responding to. So if you were to do something like that under a controlled condition with somebody that can read auras and things, because they can look at someone and see if somebody is really under a great deal of stress, and try and figure out whether or not, if this person is a sensitive or a medium or a psychic, on top of everything else, if under those controlled conditions they look at their aura and see whether or not that aura is changing, and then finding out whether or not that person is experiencing some type of paranormal activity all at the same time. That would be an interesting idea. Huh.
And also it would, all of that energy, say, around some of these haunted house attractions, where some of them are full contact, and I'm sure scaring the living daylights out of the living people. I'm sure it might act as a beacon for a lot of different type of spiritual activity, especially if, in some locations that are abandoned and you don't get the ghost hunts and you don't get that energy feed. That it would be interesting to see if they attract, maybe even just energy or whatever type of entity on the periphery of the house or the haunted house attraction.
Well, I can attest to that fact. There is a haunted attraction not very far away from me that I have investigated the premises 4 times over the years. And I know that the one time that I investigated the property before the Halloween season, it really wasn't that active. I mean, there were still things that happened, but the other 3 times that I investigated was after there had been all these people going through the location, getting scared and getting excited and everything else, and the activity was off the chart. And that was the same place that one of the stories in my book called An Unwelcome Guest, where this little boy ghost came home with me. I didn't realize it, but he came home with me, and he was fine until he started getting destructive and started pestering my cats, and I finally had to threaten with getting his grandmother to get him out of the house, to send him back. But another time that I had gone there years later, I knew the little boy was there, and I picked up on him almost immediately, and I let him know, we're fine right here, but don't come home with any of us. You have to stay here. You have to be a good boy, and you can talk to us and you can show us that you're here, like on the SLS unit or something, but you can't come home with us. And the other investigator had a recorder in the other room, and they had left it running. So we were in another location, and they were going to go outside to have a cigarette or something. So we all went outside, came back in, and the investigator remembered that they still had a recorder going in the other room. But in the meantime, I could tell that little boy was right there. kind of with us. And he was letting me know, hey, look, I want to, I don't want to be left alone. I don't want you guys to leave. And I said, no, look, you've got to stay here. We're going to be leaving soon, but you've got to stay here. You can't come home with us because the last time you came home with somebody, you came home with me and you were nasty. And I don't want that to happen. So the investigator went and got the recorder, brought it back, and he played it back. And plain as day, you could hear us in the background, kind of faint, but you could hear me say something to the little boy. And then suddenly this little boy's voice, as clear as day, came on there saying, "Are you scolding me?"
Wow.
And
Cute.
all of the investigators just jumped straight up in the air. It was like, oh my goodness. I can't believe that we just heard this as plain as day. Are you scolding me?
And you heard that with your ears?
Oh, yeah. It was
Oh,
right there on the
EVP.
recorder. Yeah, it was an EVP. It was right there on the recorder,
Wow.
plain as day. So they knew that I was definitely talking to that little boy. But the fact that the recorder was in the other room, and you could just barely hear us talking when I was, talking about this little boy. So it was interesting that he could hear us and knew exactly where that recorder was and set it right into the speaker.
Yeah, I've caught recordings before that we didn't hear. I mean, we'd be asking questions and you'd get an answer on the recorder, but we never heard it till you go back and listen.
Oh, no, we couldn't hear it at the time.
Oh, okay.
We could only hear it when he played it back.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
you could sense what he was saying.
Oh, yeah.
when he was-
I could tell what he was saying. Yeah.
It is interesting that we also kind of put a physical form on these ghosts too. I mean, why can't they be in more than one location at once? So he could be standing right there and hearing what you're saying, but also be next to the recorder to be able to speak what he was saying too, right? Nothing says
Well-
that they have to be in only one location at any one time.
Unless you take into account the line from City of Angels that such entities move at the speed of thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true.
I mean, the little boy knew that recorder was there because the investigator had said aloud, I'm leaving the recorder here. Anybody that wants to speak, do so, to this little machine thing here. And we walked away. So whether the little boy actually heard what I was saying and in the room, and the fact that the way this thing was configured, the house is configured, a lot of those walls weren't there. They were put up there for the haunted house. So he could just go right through the walls. So if he wanted to make sure that we could hear his voice, he could be standing there right, with us. And then after I said something, all he had to do was to literally walk maybe about 10 feet. But to us, we had to walk through a maze to get there. But all he had to do was just to go about 10 feet and say something into the recorder.
Plus, from his perspective, he may not have even seen the maze walls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he played with the one investigator downstairs. This one section, they had put up a whole bunch of hanging metal pipes that clang together when you walk through. So as you're walking through, these things not only touch you in the dark, but they're also making noises. And the little boy was playing with the one investigator by constantly touching him on the shoulder and then walking around in the other direction and coming up in front of him and doing the same thing. So he was literally taking the same path of this maze. So he was aware of the walls, but he was just toying with that investigator by just following him along that same route. But that little boy's been there long enough that he knows his way around that haunted house.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about it.
And he doesn't have to pay or nothing.
That's true. Yeah, he can go in there whenever he wants to.
So I wonder if he sort of volunteers, if he's like pokes people in the dark when there aren't actors around.
Good one.
Yeah, well, the actors have, there's been a number of actors that once they've gone ahead and volunteered to be there, and they've gone into the building to set up in their place and seen something and just walk right out and said, I'm out of here. Nope, not me. Not happening.
Oh, my
So what's the
muffin.
story behind this little boy anyway? Did he live in the house before it became a haunted attraction, or what attracted him to it?
We're not really sure. Even though I've looked up, excuse me, the history of the house and the location, the house itself was built right around the turn of the 20th century, like around 1901, 1902. And it was originally built as a single-story house. And then I think in the 1920s, somebody built a second story onto it, so it became a little larger than normal. But the land itself, it has been well documented in history books that right there along the Conococheague Creek used to be an Indian path. Whether it was for hunting or traveling, they're not really sure, but there were Indian settlements all along that area. And when the current owners bought the property, they were digging on the side of the hill to put in a drainage ditch because the hill came down and would literally put mud up against the side of the building. They were digging a drainage ditch and they came across a grave, and it turned out to be Native American. And they had to call the health department and a couple of other places, but they took the remains and discovered that indeed they were Native American. There was just enough artifacts and pieces of clothing and a few articles, and it's now in somebody's drawer in someplace. I'm not really sure why, but it seemed that right after they found this, that's when the activity really started ramping up. And after this happened, they were going to actually live in that house. They were going to fix it up and they were going to live in it. But the workers would come in and they would see things, they would hear things, they would be touched, and they couldn't get anybody to work in there. So they figured, oh, what the heck? You know, if we can't actually live in the house, then let's just go ahead and, you know, at least try and get some money out of it. And they own a campground right next door. So they started fixing it up and having people come in and they'd get scared and everything. Well, it grew and it grew and it got bigger and it got bigger, and now they do it every year for the entire month of October. 2 nights a week, Friday and Saturday night, and that's all it is. The rest of the year it's empty. But if you want to go in there and investigate it, they're more than happy to let you because they know it's haunted.
And where's this place located?
It's called the Creekside Manor. It's in Williamsport, Maryland. There's a Williamsport, Pennsylvania, but this one is in Williamsport, Maryland. It's called the Creekside Manor.
Okay. So if anybody's living in that area, they can contact somebody there and go have yourself a good investigation. See
Yeah.
what you get. Yeah. Too far for me to go.
Well, actually, when you've come down here headed towards Gettysburg,
Yeah.
you're not that far away from there when you come in this direction.
Well, right now Gettysburg's too far for me.
That's true. That's true.
So
And probably not a good place to be in the winter either.
absolutely not.
No. No, I've been at Creekside in late November, and because it's right there alongside of the creek, it gets cold in there.
Hmm.
So the last time I was there, I brought a huge thermos of coffee.
So what kind of shape is the house in? I mean, is floors all rotted out and walls all tore down, or what's?
Not if they're going to have paying guests.
Oh no, they according between the building inspectors, permit, the people that you have to buy the permits from, the health inspector and everything else, they go in there with a fine-tooth comb, and this place is solid as a rock. I mean, they just, I think last year put a new roof on. They put in some extra pieces of flooring, but no, it's very, very safe in there. But what they've done, because it's empty the rest of the year, they just let it go. And there are real cobwebs in there. There's real cobwebs in this place.
Real cobwebs.
There's real dust in this place. It's filled with antiques, all kinds of strange things, and weird portraits and pictures. And in other words, it's creepy. And then during the actual holiday season, they have animatronics in there, as well as having the actors. And some of the animatronics, especially the ones in the basement area, which is actually the main floor. The first floor is now the second floor. But the second floor has, like the living room, the dining room, what they refer to as a parlor, and a music room. And the basement area has an operating room and a freezer room with meat and stuff hanging from the walls and ceilings that definitely don't look like cows. And then they have another area where there's people that are behind bars that jump out at you and things like that. And then, unfortunately, and I don't go in there, clowns. So I definitely don't go in there, not in the basement area, not in that section. I'll go in from the upstairs. I'll go in the main part, but you have to go out through the clowns in order to get outside.
Oh,
That's your exit.
really?
You start out on the top floor, and then you end up in the basement and go through that maze and everything else.
I'm
And then
sorry.
you go out through the clowns, and then you go out into the backyard where they've got a real hearse, and they've got somebody running around with a fake chainsaw that makes noises, and a really awful-looking clown with big, ugly teeth, and it's creepy out there.
I'm sorry if I went in through the upstairs is the way that I'm leaving.
Oh, there have been people that have turned right around and just, walked right out. But the top floor, you just kind of walk through, and there's real people up there as well.
Well,
They will talk to you, or something like that. The makeup is incredible.
Well, that's a regular place where you go in. It's supposed to be with people in it to try and scare you and stuff. How is it if you are able just to go in there to do an investigation, and there's only 4 or 5 of you there?
Oh, well, they don't have the electricity on after the season. they turn the electricity off.
Okay.
Unless you want it on. I mean, if you would rather that there were a couple of lights on or something, they'll, flip those switches or whatever for you so that you can, say, plug in something to charge your battery pack or something like that. But as a rule, they'll turn off the animatronics so that they're not working while you're in there. You don't want the electricity to influence your machinery, your gadgets. You certainly don't want to be walking around and suddenly have Nosferatu jumping out at you from the closet.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I did that. There are these tunnels in Pasadena that have been converted into a haunted attraction. And I did an investigation there with Karen Rotowski, and it just drove us distracted because they didn't shut off the attraction. So you had motion sensor stuff causing, suddenly tape-recorded screams or stuff like that. And we're like, it just frustrated us to no end.
Yeah. Well, one time when I was there, right at they have two different entrances. One of them is where you walk in after you pay and you get your little ticket stub and everything. You hand it to the crypt keeper, which stands at the front door and takes your ticket. And they only let like 2 or 3 people in at a time because, it's small enough and they want people to be able to go through and have people to jump out at them and things to move and so forth. So there is another section, though, that in the event that you get scared on the first floor and you want to leave, there is another exit to get out. And the thing is, right there at that entrance, there is a torso that, a mutilated-looking torso that is right there at that exit. And if you get near that door, it makes these god-awful noises. So you can't go out that door without somebody noticing that door has gotten open because this torso will start making noises. And it was strange that the last time that I was there with a group, everything else was turned off. I mean, we had no electricity in that place at all, except that torso kept growling. And it's foot activated. It's in the floor.
Uh-huh.
It's either motion. Yeah, there's a pressure plate in the floor, and it's also motion detector from the other side. So if you tried to go out accidentally, it would growl at you, and you'd probably just back up. But if you were actually going out the door, or trying to come in the door, if you tried to come in the door, so that you maybe wouldn't have to pay or something like that, that floor sensor would immediately set that thing off.
Wow.
And that sucker just kept going off. And we couldn't figure out why. Because we were only just a few feet away from that thing most of the time, and it just kept going.
You couldn't unplug it?
Had some bad roast beef.
Something.
Or maybe that kid just figured out how to work the animatronics.
There you go.
Probably.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised. But there's definitely more than just the little boy there. There's probably at least another 4 that are there on a regular basis. But that little boy loves to play with you. Absolutely loves to play with you.
Wow.
You bring trigger objects for him?
I have. I've brought little stuffed animals. I've brought little toy cars, candy. He loves candy. So if you leave candy out, he has a tendency to respond to that. The woman that's there, she likes music, that sort of thing. So there's different spirits that react to different things, and they all seem to be aware of you. I've yet to come across just a residual. And there are some people that have gone in there over the years that insist that this particular location actually has almost like a portal to it because of the Native American influence, that they may have opened up a portal because they disturbed the dead.
Mm.
And so therefore, all of these spirits are there that may not have anything at all to do with the property at all. Because that woman, she's definitely not from the 20th century. She's definitely before then.
Wow.
So,
Well, let me ask one question then. If houses can absorb all of the energy, for example, there's houses that have had a lot of misery, etc., to it, and an empath would go in there and be able to sense that. What happens when you walk into an attraction like that where it's designed to scare the heck out of people? And all of that type of energy is absorbed into the structure. What kind of reaction do empaths have going into places like that?
well, I know just as a medium, it's very unnerving. There is a whole different feel to a place like that going in there. And it's not just because there's cobwebs and there's, creepy looking dolls and skeletons sitting at the dining room table and stuff like that. It doesn't have anything to do with it. There is a definite vibe. There's a definite feel to the atmosphere. Even if you've got the lights on, you can feel it. It's almost tangible. Now, I'm not an empath, but I'm sure that those people that are, it has to really set off their millimeters. It has to.
Internal millimeters.
All right, I think it's time for us to take a quick break, and we're going to take a quick break. Be back in 4 or 5 minutes, if that long. So stay tuned, because we got a lot more coming up right after we get out of break. And till then, we'll be right back. And just remember, your mics will be live.